Imagine finding out that your own existence, like your strength, your magic, your very soul, is the direct result of this horrific, unholy experiment that actually killed your mother.
Yeah, that is a heavy thing to wake up to.
Right. It's a devastating reality. But that is exactly what our hero wakes up to today. We've been looking through the campaign notes you sent us, and wow, we really need to talk about the absolute nightmare unfolding in Session 16 of this Sword Coast campaign.
Oh, absolutely. It's an intense one.
Our mission for this deep dive is to unpack the, intensely psychological and tactically desperate events of this specific chapter. We're pulling from the official character compendium, quest notes, and the detailed session recaps you provided to really get to the bottom of how the sins of the past are literally reaching out to choke the present.
It is a phenomenal stack of sources to work through, by the way. What stands out immediately to me is the profound duality running through this specific session.
For sure. The split focus is wild.
Exactly. We're basically witnessing two distinct breaking points happening simultaneously. On one side of the map, there is the catastrophic collapse of civic leadership in this terrified, ruined town. And then on the other side, hidden deep underground, we see the psychological breaking point of a fused soul confronting its own, really dark origins.
Yeah. So let's start underground, because the atmosphere of this scene is just suffocating. We are zooming in on Lab Uslik, which the notes also call the Inner Sanctum Lab.
Right.
So Whiffer Brightblade, our fighter, and his companions have just survived this brutal encounter in a dragon barrow. They wake up hanging in vines, basically being gassed in this secret facility. And standing in the haze is Vildara Moonshine.
Which is such a crazy reveal. Vildara is this incredibly poignant figure to find in a sterile, horrifying place like that.
Yeah, she doesn't fit the setting at all.
Not at all. She's a nearly 1,000-year-old elf druid belonging to the Circle of the Moonshines. She wears a necklace of fireballs, but more importantly, she carries the crushing weight of a century's worth of secrets.
She really does.
She isn't a dungeon guardian in the traditional sense. She was actually the doula for Whiffer's mother, Mila.
And what's so wild is she actually tries to stall the conversation by offering the party tea.
Yes.
It is such a wonderfully jarring grandmotherly move when you're standing in a bioarcane laboratory. But Whiffer, he pushes past the pleasantries, demanding answers.
Yes, yeah.
And the answers he gets completely reframe his entire life.
They really do.
We learn that his father, Ricard Ironton, wasn't just a simple weapons manufacturer. He was a man entirely consumed by the prophecy of the fused soul.
Right. Ricard was completely driven by the knowledge that his unborn child was destined to play a massive role in this impending apocalyptic storm.
Like a chosen one trope, but twisted.
Exactly. But knowing a prophecy and trusting it are two very different things. Ricard couldn't just let fate take its course. He decided to, engineer destiny.
Which never goes well.
Never. He delved into this prohibited, forbidden research that he called the bioarcane. The goal was to give his unborn son an unnatural edge altering his physical and magical makeup in utero to make him naturally attuned to the weave of magic, to make him taller, faster, and stronger than a normal human.
Okay, I have to pause here because Ricard's logic is just fundamentally flawed. He institutes this Eterned Radiant Therapy, which sounds like a fantasy equivalent of extreme, unregulated CRISPR gene editing.
That's a really good comparison, actually.
Right. But with extreme hubris. If his ultimate goal is to create a savior to fight off the coming darkness, why would he ever partner with a literal devil like Raphael?
Yeah, it makes no sense on the surface.
It seems like Ricard is weaponizing his own child's existence by injecting the very darkness they are supposed to be fighting before the kid is even born.
And that contradiction is the absolute core of Ricard's tragedy. It highlights how blinding parental desperation can be when it's mixed with unchecked scientific arrogance.
He thought he was the smartest guy in the room.
Exactly. Ricard genuinely believed his intellect could outmaneuver the cosmos. He constructed this terrifying transfusion process for Mila, involving a tube running directly from a massive dark cylindrical tank right into her arm.
Oh, that visual.
I know. Mila trusted the man she loved, even though she was hesitant. But the fatal flaw in Ricard's hubris is thinking you can invite a devil into a laboratory and still control the variables.
You absolutely cannot, because the moment Ricard steps out of the room to check his calculations or whatever, Raphael hijacks the entire ritual.
Of course he does.
He starts pumping this viscous, black, infernal liquid directly into Mila, who is strapped down and completely helpless. Ricard hears the commotion, rushes back in, and just loses his mind.
Absolute panic.
Grabs his almost finished Dragon Slayer sword and lunges at the devil. but he misses Raphael and strikes the tank of liquid instead. The glass shatters, and
Hmm.
what falls out of that tank is going to haunt my nightmare.
Oh, the visual is profoundly disturbing. What tumbles out of the shattered glass is an angel, stripped of all its majesty. It's 8 to 9 feet tall, completely featherless, just translucent skin stretched tightly over bone. It has rows of teeth, and it is horrifically malnourished.
It's basically a monster at this point.
Exactly. Ricard had essentially captured a divine being and kept it on the absolute brink of death, torturing it for months just to use its radiant essence as a battery for his experiment.
That is so dark.
And as it falls to the floor, the angel looks at Ricard and begs for him to end the pain, saying it has been so long.
Sit with the psychological weight of that for a second. Whiffer is standing in this dusty, forgotten lab, realizing that the night he was born, his mother died in agonizing pain because of this hijacked experiment.
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
His literal life, his strength, his connection to magic, it is all built on the prolonged torture of an angel and the infernal corruption of a devil. He was traumatized by his own father before he even took his first breath.
And, that trauma only deepens when Vildara plays Ricard's final video log.
Oh, the video log.
Right. Ricard confesses to trusting the wrong people, but he still cannot let go of his hubris. He reveals he faked his own death and assumed the alias Dr. Jacques Vance.
Wait, Dr. Vance?
Yes. He did it so he could continue his unnatural research in secret, entirely focused on finding a dark, bioarcane method to bring Mila back from the dead.
Okay, that connects a massive dot in the campaign notes.
Yeah.
That is exactly why Dr. Vance was secretly funneling money to Maisco, the blood anchorite.
You got it.
Ricard was paying the very cultists that Whiffer and his friends have been fighting just to keep the Dragon Barrow shrouded in magical storms, protecting his hidden lab from discovery.
It all circles back to the ultimate product of this horrific laboratory, which is the fused soul blade.
Right, the sword.
This weapon isn't just a piece of loot, it's the physical manifestation of Whiffer's divided soul and the catastrophic choices his parents made.
We really need to talk about how this sword actually works, because it doesn't function like a normal weapon at all. The notes mention it prevents Whiffer from summoning his Echo, his twin sister Whiffla, when it is attuned.
Right, locks that down.
But what does it actually do in combat?
So the sword is a masterpiece of opposing forces. In its base form, it is a heavy greatsword that deals devastating kinetic force. 2d6 force damage, to be exact.
Okay, solid.
But through a split-second reflex, the wielder can separate the blade down the middle, splitting it into 2 distinct longswords.
That is so cool.
One half is called the Angel's Touch, pulsing with blinding radiant energy. The other half is the Unwanted, dripping with decaying necrotic energy.
So you have the literal light and dark halves of his origin story in each hand. The notes say that if he crosses them defensively, it provides a magical boost to his armor. How is that actually happening in universe?
It relies on the magnetic repulsion of those diametrically opposed energies. When Whiffer crosses the radiant blade over the necrotic blade, the conflicting magics fiercely reject each other.
Oh, so they push apart.
Exactly, creating a literal arcane shockwave or shield in front of him. It deflects incoming physical and magical blows, giving him a +1 to his AC.
That's a brilliant mechanic.
But the offensive capability is even more fascinating. When fighting dragons, the sword can unleash a massive unleashed void strike, dealing 3d8 force damage.
Wow.
And because dragons naturally emit immense amounts of ambient elemental magic, the swords act as lightning rods. The necrotic blade absorbs the dragon's energy to feed the radiant blade, and vice versa.
It's like a battery.
Yes. It creates a perpetual motion machine of violence, constantly requiring the wielder to balance the light and the dark to keep the weapon charged.
That is incredible. The weapon demands the exact same impossible balance that Whiffer has to maintain within his own soul.
Precisely.
But, while Ricard's past arrogance is shattering Whiffer underground, the present consequences of failed leadership are playing out in the mud of Phandalin right at this very moment.
Yes, exactly. We're looking at a masterclass in localized disaster management here. Boris, the party's cleric, stayed behind in Phandalin after the dragon devastated the town.
The place is a wreck.
The infrastructure is completely gone. He has established a desperate triage tent near the Shrine of Luck, working alongside Adabar Gwyn.
And she's handling the minor stuff, right?
Right. She manages the minor wounds and apothecary duties so Boris can focus on stopping people from literally bleeding to death.
And right into the middle of this bloody chaos rolls a caravan of wagons. It's an influx of injured rock gnomes from Gnomengard, led by an older gnome named Shayla. They were flushed out of their caves by the same dragon.
Yep.
And among them are Fibblestib and Dabbledaub, the master inventors.
And the arrival of these specific gnomes raises the stakes exponentially. Fibblestib is in critical condition, barely breathing.
He's fading fast.
Right. And this isn't just about saving a life, it is about saving knowledge. These gnomes are the only engineers on the Sword Coast who possess the technical acumen required to balance the intricate mechanics of the fused soul blade we just talked about.
Oh, wow.
If Fibblestib dies in that temp, Whiffer's tactical advantage against the dragons might just die with him.
So Boris is holding the line between life and death. He is pushing his magical stamina to the absolute limit, stopping these gnomes from seizing. But while he is performing miracles inside the tent, society is completely fracturing outside of it.
It's getting ugly.
The human refugees of Phandalin are angry. A burly human miner steps up and directly threatens Boris, demanding that the humans be treated before these, quote, freeloading refugee gnomes.
This is exactly what a sociological breaking point looks like. When resources like healing magic, food, and safety become severely scarce, empathy just evaporates and tribalism takes over.
Survival mode.
Yeah. The terrified humans no longer view the gnomes as fellow victims of the dragon. They view them as direct competitors for survival.
So how does Boris navigate this? Let's look at his history for a second. He is a cleric who originally served Talos, the chaotic god of storms and destruction.
Right.
Now he operates under Tamora, the goddess of luck. A guy with that kind of intense religious whiplash, whose first instinct used to be rooted in violent storms, is suddenly faced with a racist, angry mob.
It's a huge test for him, and he navigates it by recognizing that anger is just masked terror. Instead of meeting their aggression with a physical or violent response, Boris casts the spell Calm Emotions.
Smart play.
Very smart. He magically neutralizes the adrenaline and panic in the mob, but, a spell only lasts so long.
Right. Eventually the magic fades.
Exactly. What truly diffuses the situation is his leadership. He speaks to them rationally, convincing this angry mob to channel their remaining energy into productive supply gathering for the triage center. He effectively turns a riot into a supply chain.
It is brilliant, grounded leadership, and it carries over into how he handles the emotional wreckage of the town, too. He effectively becomes the impromptu therapist for Phandalin.
He really does.
Look at his interaction with Toblin Stunhill. Toblin is the innkeeper, and he is sitting in the charred rubble of the inn that his father built with his bare hands, absolutely paralyzed by despair. And Pilaf Kane and Elmar Barthen are struggling just as much. Elmar is doubting his worth as a father to his daughter, Thistle.
Yeah. Boris's approach to spiritual counseling here is fascinating. He doesn't offer grand theological promises about everything happening for a reason.
Right, which would ring incredibly hollow to a man staring at the ashes of his legacy.
Exactly. Instead, Boris offers solemn, pragmatic advice. He acknowledges the deep unfairness of the situation. He meets Toblin in his grief without sugarcoating the brutal reality of their ruined town.
It's a very, shit happens, but we have to keep moving forward kind of vibe.
That grounded, realistic presence is the exact kind of leadership the actual mayor of Phandalin, Harbin Wester, is completely failing to provide.
Harbin is utterly paralyzed by his own fear, so Boris steps into the vacuum and manages to stabilize the town, just for a moment.
A very brief moment.
Yeah, because just as the bleeding stops in Phandalin, and just as Whiffer processes his origins in the lab, the board state of the entire region shifts. The stabilization is completely shattered by a synchronized, massive new threat.
The execution of this warning in the source material is deeply cinematic. It happens in two places at the exact same time.
I love how the DM did this.
It's so good. Down in the hidden lab, right after Vildar explains the sword, a cloaked man simply steps straight through an illusionary rock wall.
Just walks right through.
Yeah. Vildar recognizes him immediately. It is Sauce, also known as Mr. Reedier, a trusted, stable hand of Falcon. He brings terrifying news. A highly organized orc army from Icespire Peak is marching south by southwest, heading straight for them.
And miles away, at that exact same moment, Bajak Lao rides into Phandalin from Connieberry with the exact same warning. The orc horde is real, it is massive, and it is less than 48 hours away.
It's a worst-case scenario.
Phandalin is already a graveyard from the dragon attack, and now it is directly in the warpath of an army. This news triggers a massive political fracture within the town's leadership.
It centers entirely around Halia Thornton, the calculating agent who runs the miners' exchange for the Zentarum network.
Right.
She looks at the cowardly mayor, Harbin Wester, she looks at the exhausted heroes, and she makes a cold, logical calculation. Phandalin is a lost cause, so she defects.
I understand the logic, but it feels so deeply cynical. She isn't just leaving. She convinces the dwarf prospectors, Norbus and Daslin, to abandon the town and travel to Waterdeep with her.
Yeah, she takes them right off the board.
They are taking essential manpower and resources away from a town that is about to be slaughtered.
It is undeniably cynical, but from Halia's utilitarian perspective, staying in Phandalin is just agreeing to die alongside them. The dwarves agree to go because they admit they have never truly felt accepted among the humans anyway.
Which is fair, given the racism we just saw with the gnomes.
Right. Halia funds their dreams of dwarven discovery elsewhere, effectively buying their loyalty. It is a transaction of pure survival. They are choosing not to die with the town. But for Boris and the remaining refugees, it is a devastating loss of capable hands.
Boris isn't running to Waterdeep, though. He pulls out a sending stone, contacts Whiffer's group in the lab, and gets coordinates for a safe haven. He immediately starts rallying the town, calculating that if they load the wagons right now, they can stay just a few hours ahead of the Orc vanguard.
It's going to be so close.
The pirates in town start rigging traps and barricades in the mud to delay the horde. It is a full-blown, desperate evacuation.
But the crucial detail is where they are evacuating to. Whiffer's group, guided by Vildara, tells Boris to direct the wagons 15 to 20 miles south to a stronghold hidden in the mountains. The elves call it Minas Gondoithil, the citadel of the Rocky Moon.
But the dwarves built it first.
They did. It was originally forged as the dwarven fortress of Axelholm.
Right.
The elven moon druids eventually claimed it and hid it with magic. But the history of this fortress is drenched in blood.
It's so grim.
An elderly dwarven woman once came to the gates demanding the stronghold be returned to her people. When the druids refused to leave, she unleashed a catastrophic ancient curse upon the stone itself.
She didn't just curse the building, right?
No, the magic corrupted the souls of the elven druids inside, twisting them from guardians of nature into ravenous, cannibalistic ghouls.
That is horrifying. A sanctuary literally turned into a tomb.
And Vildara couldn't bear the thought of slaughtering her own cursed kin, so centuries ago, she simply sealed the massive stone doors and buried the entrance under magical vegetation.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. And now this infested, cursed tomb is the only place with walls thick enough to protect the refugees of Phandalin from the approaching orc army.
The desperation required to even consider opening that door is palpable. It kicks off this epic flight from the Dragon Barrow to the mountain. Redder summons his undead skeletal horse, Rex, which can run at double the speed of a normal mount, and rides ahead to scout the path.
Which is such a cool visual.
So cool. But the rest of the lab party has to cover miles of treacherous terrain instantly, so they execute an insanely dangerous magical maneuver. They all jump into Vitrovia's bag of holding.
Which is an incredibly volatile thing to do. A bag of holding is essentially a vacuum-sealed pocket dimension in the astral plane.
Yeah, it's not meant for people.
No, it lacks breathable air, and if it is overloaded, the magical fabric tears, spilling the contents into the chaotic void forever.
So how do they survive that without suffocating or ripping the fabric of reality?
It requires the combined mastery of the two moon druids, Vitrovia and Valdara. While the party's inside, the druids actively manipulate the weave of magic from the outside.
Like keeping a valve open.
Yeah, they use their connection to the natural world to act as a living bridge, funneling just enough oxygen from the material plane into the astral pocket to keep the party alive. But they have to do it without opening the dimensional rift so wide that the bag collapses.
Wow.
It is like threading a microscopic needle while sprinting from an army.
It's a high-wire act of magical engineering. They travel at breakneck speed, arriving at the base of the mountain just in time. The session ends with an unforgettable visual.
Oh, it's so good.
Vildara steps up to the sheer rock face, planting her staff into the earth. She begins chanting ancient incantations, slowly stripping away the magical wards and the thick, grasping vegetation she placed there centuries ago. The stone grinds open, and the party is left standing at the dark, yawning entrance to Axelholm.
And their objective is terrifyingly clear. They have to enter this lightless fortress and completely eradicate an infestation of ghoul druids before the highly vulnerable, exhausted human refugees from Phandalin arrive at the gates.
The clock is ticking.
If they fail to clear the fortress, the refugees will escape an orc horde only to walk blindly into a slaughterhouse.
Talk about out of the frying pan and straight into the fire. What a relentlessly intense journey this single session covers. We started with the heartbreaking, bioarcane revelations of Whiffer's birth, learning how a father's hubris invited a devil to corrupt a bloodline.
Yep.
Then we watched Boris, desperately holding a fractured society together in a bloody triage tent. And it all culminates in this adrenaline-fueled race to unlock a cursed ancient tomb before an army arrives.
It really highlights how deeply intertwined the, deeply personal traumas are with the apocalyptic threats in this campaign. Which actually brings me to a final thread I want to pull, something for you to think about as we wrap up. So, the prophecy of the fused soul claims that these disparate magics, the radiant and the infernal, must unite to forge a brighter sun and save the Sword Coast.
Right.
But look at the shelter they are running toward. Their only safe haven, Axelholm, is a literal monument to racial grudges, stolen land, and a devastating curse that turned nature-worshipping druids into cannibal monsters.
That's a grim irony.
It is. It raises an important question for you to mull over. Can you really build a brighter future for a world using the very artifacts and fortresses that prove how deeply corrupted it has always been?
A scalpel and a sledgehammer, indeed. You're trying to fix the foundation, but the tools you're forced to use are covered in the exact same rot that is destroying the house in the first place. That is definitely something to chew on.
Absolutely.
Well, we want to thank you so much for sharing these campaign notes and joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking those hard questions, keep exploring the lore, and remember, sometimes the ghosts of the past are the only things standing between you and the storm. Until next time.